let's think. Let me think chronologically. So we had the border, then there was DOGE, which I would say was a failure. I don't know. I haven't got much else for you.
Tough.
If I'm being.
Now, listen. This is somebody that voted for Trump twice. I think he said twice, maybe even 3 times. I know for a fact he voted for him twice. Amongst a lot of people, he still will defend a lot of conservative principles. If you watch him enough, I swear, he's not some like liberal masquerading as a conservative. Like he's conservative. Like majority of the time, I don't agree with Saget on a lot of what he has to say. In this interview, I agree with him because he was being honest about the administration. And I think that's the main reason why I agreed with him, because he didn't really get into, or he didn't really elaborate on a lot of his positions on specific policies and things of that nature. What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Trey.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Back at it with another video.
Another one.
Still at it with this Tim Miller and Saget and Jetty interview. Gonna go into this next one where they kinda have Saget talk about some of the stuff if he had to give Trump a good grade, because Saget was pretty critical of Trump throughout the entire interview. He was like, hey, if you had to give him a good mark on anything, what would you give him a good mark? And he said he shut down the border, which, truth be told, yes, Trump did shut down the border. However, what he did afterwards is leaps and bounds beyond what is constitutional and what is okay. So I'm going to let Saget give his point, and then I'll give my thoughts on that.
You've been pretty mean to Donald Trump, the president of the United States. We're 43 minutes in, 2 votes for him. So let's talk about the good stuff. What you look at the last, 14 months, and you're like, man, he's really killed it on that. What would be
Shut the border down
for you?
Shut the border down. Yeah, I would say that's probably number one. I mean, for a lot of people, that's essential, right? For a lot of the people who are, if you even look at some of the most diehard, like America First, MAGA, or whatever, they're like, look, I don't care about anything else. That's number one. So you could say that. I would say that's probably.
I've had this debate with a lot of different people, and I want to pose the question to y'all too, because I'm curious to what you think. A lot of people are obsessed with the border and the thought of illegal immigrants coming in. Like I said, I've given my thoughts. I don't believe in illegal immigration. I do believe that people coming into the country illegally should be deported. Now, it is not one of my top ticket items. It's not something that I feel that strongly about, that it's like make or break on who I'm going to vote for. I don't understand why it's such a big deal for others, right? So in the 2024 campaign, if we're talking about immigration and we're talking about trans issues, like things of that nature, I don't understand why that's a political issue to the extent of, like, based on your response in reference to those two topics determines if I'm going to vote for you or not. The border, I guess, in Texas could be a big deal. In Canada, or, you know, countries bordering Canada, Michigan, like Montana, like all those countries bordering Canada, maybe it's an issue for them. But me personally, I don't understand why as many Americans have an issue with the border. Now, I will say, I just did a long video that y'all will see that I'm going to drop tomorrow on my thoughts on, you know, a lot of things that brought us to where we are today as a country. And I think that the great replacement theory has a lot to do with a lot of Americans' views on the border and immigration and how much of a crisis it is or it isn't. But, you know, y'all let me know what y'all think. We can get back to the video.
His biggest win. There's been literally no more incoming, you know, fake asylum refugees coming across. Let's think. Let me think chronologically. So we have the border, then there was DOGE, which I would say was a failure. I don't know. I haven't got much else for you.
Tough.
If I'm being...
Now, listen. This is somebody that voted for Trump twice. I think he said twice, maybe even 3 times. I know for a fact he voted for him twice. He, amongst a lot of people, he still will defend a lot of conservative principles. If you watch him enough, I swear, he's not some like liberal masquerading as a conservative. Like he's conservative. Like majority of the time, I don't agree with Saget on a lot of what he has to say. In this interview, I agree with him because he was being honest about the administration. And I think that's the main reason why I agreed with him, because he didn't really get into, or he didn't really elaborate on a lot of his positions on specific policies and things of that nature.
One win for Donald Trump.
Well, it depends. I mean, it really depends, because you're asking me
let's argue about the border for a second.
Sure.
Let's talk about the border for a second, then we'll go back to grading the Trump presidency. I give credit just on the narrow question of it's important that we secure our border, and I do agree with that, and I think that this has been a failure among a lot of past presidents, and some of that's out of their control a little bit, but they've done a good job in the securing of the border. If you bring that into kind of the whole, you know, kind of immigration policy, though, like the fact that we have probably fewer people in the country now than we did when he was elected president is insane to me. Like that is not the sign. Well, it's not a sign of a successful company when you have negative net migration, when there are more people leaving than coming. But that was a declared goal of the campaign. Well, sure. So, so obviously it was a policy success. But I'm saying is okay, it's bad for the country. Like he did it. Like that's true. Sure. Yeah, but I'm saying that is, I don't understand why anyone would think that is a good policy. I mean, it's going to contribute to inflation. It's going to contribute to, like, there's a lot of needs we have for a growing country. Growth in a country is important. You know, I don't think we want to be Japan in the 1980s. I don't think we want to be a country that people are fleeing. I think that it's good to bring people into the country. Maybe not the same way that they were brought in between 2000 and 2024, but we have to have some way to add people to the country.
Well, I think it's kind of a neoliberal view, right? We're kind of looking at immigrants as utils, like economic utils, and they're plug and play, and not.
So, yep. Now they're getting into this terminology. Apparently, a util is like a thing where you just look at people as like a statistical front. Like, hey, statistically speaking, this individual that comes into the country, they're talking about immigrants, so they represent a metric, a number, and then, you know, based on that number, you can gather your data and all that different stuff. Ultimately, what Tim was saying was that for the economy to thrive, we need immigration. We need people coming into the country. When we have more people leaving the country, as in we're deporting a lot of people, the economy is going to suffer because of it. I'm not an economist. I don't do a lot of macroeconomics and things of that nature, so I don't know if there's validity in what he's saying, but I could see that, right? It makes sense, right? If we have more people leaving the country than are coming to the country, that's going to be less goods bought, sold. There's going to be less people working for corporations, companies, this, that, and that. So, like, all these different metrics, the less people that we have here, of course, it's going to affect the bottom line for everyone. So I can get that. And then Sager's counterpoint to that was that it was the goal to begin with, right? It was the goal. That was the mandate. That was what he said on his campaign, and he accomplished that, period. Full stop.
really,
Well,
considering.
I also care about them personally. We can talk about that too.
Well,
but
I care about
that
them personally
I
too.
think that
I don't
they're
think it's mutually
utils, and I
exclusive.
think we've done an assault on human rights. I think both of those things are true.
Right, but by the way, you would find a lot more agreement between you and me on ICE than you might even think. And there's also a political problem with all of this. I've talked about thermostatic public opinion. The way that the Trump administration has carried out a lot of their immigration agenda has actually flipped support for mass migration more than I think ever before in history, including amnesty, which I think would be a catastrophe for the United States. But let's just think philosophically. So first of all, I reject the idea that human beings are utils, and we should care about that. But secondary, and I think that there are much bigger arguments. Now, let's talk about the border and literally about the historical trend. So Trump, you can look at Trump as a singular force or as a historical force. I like both theories, but I also think that historically, if you're going to take a look at our own history, that under the Biden administration, about 10 million people illegally entered the country. 10 million, the most, I think, ever in American history. You also had the largest foreign-born.
So, again, like I said, obviously I told you I'm a Democrat, but I've been telling you my position on immigration. I don't think that 10 million, immigrants coming into the country over the Biden administration was a good thing. I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with that many people coming in. I feel like if we're allowing that many people in, then we've gotten rid of the process, so to speak. And obviously a lot of those people were probably deported due to the nature of this administration, which I also don't agree with. I don't have the perfect answer on how we should employ our immigration policy. I think that it shouldn't take 10 years for a person to become a citizen. They come to this country the legal way and they're doing all the processes the way they're supposed to. I don't think it should take 10 years to become a citizen. And I don't think they should have to spend who knows how much money it costs, but it's not cheap to become a citizen. And I don't think it should cost millions of dollars for some fucking golden ticket. And I don't think you should have to come here from Africa or something like that. And I don't think there's such things as shithole countries that should be disbarred from citizenship. Like all those different things I hold true. So yeah, the immigration policy needs to get its proper due, needs to get it the right people to sit down in a room to figure out how we should tackle this problem. And so far, we haven't got it right. Biden and Biden's administration, the Democratic Party, they didn't get it right. Trump definitely didn't fucking get it right. So, yeah, it's not done yet, and I don't think anybody can act as if they have the answer.
Population of the United States ever since the early 1900s, which was met at the time by an organic democratic pushback and shutdown of U.S. immigration, specifically because they were having chaos in their internal society from unmitigated mass migration over the last, 50, 60 years, I think, at that time period. Also, to your economic point, at that time, we had much more industrial plug-and-play style labor where any individual human being could be reasonably expected to perform well in that economy. You cannot say that at this time, except we have the same level of mass migration. We're a service-based economy. A lot of this.
So this is an interesting point Sager's going to make. You got to pay attention to this one because it might lose you on it, but it does make perfect sense. And one of the rare moments that I do agree with him.
Idea about basically turning, people from Guatemala or whatever into home health aides, I think is like deeply, actually almost like racist, honestly. And what it does is like basically import some sort of like slave class in order to serve all of us to keep, our goods very well.
I think that there's a gap between importing a slave class and having negative net migration and having a similar
sure. I mean,
type,
there certainly is, but look, in the same way that you gave like the maximalist argument.
Yeah, both of them are right. Like, yeah, Tim's argument is there's a gap between Tim's argument and what Sager is arguing. So it's not apples to apples, but both are legit parts of the spectrum.
I'm giving you the same one. Sure. Here is that we don't need maximal number of home health aides. And the biggest growing sector of our economy right now is healthcare, and specifically home healthcare aid for old people. Look, I'm not saying that's not a noble job or any of that, but if you want to drive the price down on that, it's a big argument for basically like low-skilled immigration, which I don't think that we need. We're a service-based economy. We have industrial-based problems of our own. Wage growth obviously has been stagnant now for decades. Couple blips up in there over the years, but at a bigger, more important level, and this is really why Trump really shifted me on the immigration question, and really just thinking about it bigger is really like we need a cohesive social understanding of America.
Oh
and I look.
Finally, you said something that made me mad. Great.
Okay,
50 minutes in. Awesome.
That's fine.
Yeah,
we can get mad.
I mean, I just think we look at Minneapolis, for example. And we've seen a very socially cohesive society that's had a lot of immigration into it. We had the society coming together, volunteering, helping their neighbors. I don't think there was any sense. And like there was some fraud, right? Like that's true, and that should have been dealt with. But like as a society, I don't think if you ask people of Minneapolis, like, do you feel incohesive in your community? I think you would hear right now exactly the opposite.
Well,
and you saw that these masked agents coming into the community to bully and harass people were the ones that caused social discohesion.
I wouldn't even disagree in terms of the way that the operation went down. What I would fundamentally disagree with, though, is that there is not a chaotic element to tens of millions of people living in your country illegally, and specifically having people and their children have to be.
So, and this is kind of just where I don't. It's apples to oranges again, right? Tim's talking about a specific thing as it is to Minnesota and how the people came together and how ICE was deployed, pretty much sent there, to disrupt what was going on in Minnesota. And Sager's response to that was to go back to the overlining principle of the problem of immigration and the 10,000 immigrants coming through, right? It's not this. They're kind of talking past each other. They're not talking about the same things, and it's unfortunate that this is where this one kind of went, but yeah.
Educated at the price of the state, while a lot of these people barely speak any English. 25% of the people that Biden let in literally didn't even have a high school diploma.
And I think the point that Sager is making now, like I said, that point I think is valid. If the people that are coming in and getting the immigration status, they're being allowed to stay. If they can't speak English, they're not high school educated, college educated, and things of that nature. What kind of jobs are they going to be able to get? If they're not able to get jobs that pay well, if they're not able to go to school, get a better education, they're going to get low-paying jobs. They may even end up on welfare, things of that nature. So they're not going to be value add to the country, the community. Like, yeah, I can't say they won't be value add to the community. So I take that back. That's my fault. But they won't be value add to the economy. And the way that Tim is trying to position his argument on immigration, if we're bringing in a bunch of people that are going to end up on welfare and we're going to have to cover them for taxes and things of that nature, it's not really going to be a net benefit.
Not even literate in English, let alone Spanish. A significant portion of the population is not even literate in Spanish. I mean, whenever their lawyers and other have to are having discourse with them, they're speaking like native languages. That person is not going to succeed in the United States. This, to your economic point, if we want to reduce people to utils, but it's not a responsibility.
For people in the Mom community in Guatemala, there were kids in high school. They were
I have
learning,
nothing against these people personally. Yeah. What I'm saying is that, let's say again, to reduce people to utils, what would you say for an American citizen who doesn't have a high school diploma? Statistically, that person's not going to do very well. Now, it would be madness to allow that person to come to the United States, legalize them, give them citizenship, and then just expect them to flourish. We know that it's not going to work based on the data. And really what it comes down to, again, and this is kind of your point around social cohesion and an understanding, is we get to decide democratically. And I will say there was I think immigration was probably Number one, maybe number two reason why Donald Trump got elected is that people want to feel some sort of control over the border. And it was a popular vote, I think, mandate really on the immigration question. Like, I really think there's a lot of like, you fell for it award stuff whenever it comes to Trump. He stood in front of a sign at the RNC and it said mass deportation. And he won the popular vote. And I think people like you have to reckon then that your idea of Minneapolis of some utopian vision is just not true.
My reckoning is that I was right, and there was a big portion of people that voted for Donald Trump that didn't know what mass deportation looked like, and I did know what mass deportation looked like.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stop this one right here, but I agree with Tim on this one wholeheartedly. Like, I think that people really, if you really ask them to explain what their main issue with immigration is, they can't articulate it. I told you what my issue with immigration is, and how we should go about doing it. And yeah, you can close the border, you can deport illegals in a way that is not this. Like, Tim is saying, like, hey, what he knew was gonna happen when people started talking about mass deportation is that we were going to end up going through a lot of the things that we've seen, like ICE deployed the way it's been deployed, Border Patrol deployed the way it's been deployed. I didn't foresee that coming, and like I said, I'm not even a Trump supporter, and I didn't foresee them going this hard on immigration. But he kind of said that he knew it was coming. And I think what the point that Saget was trying to make with the whole, like, this utopia and stuff like that is not what Americans want. Like I said, I think, yeah, Americans want the border to be controlled. They don't want people to be coming here illegally, just willy-nilly. But at the same time, they don't want what's been happening under this administration so far. I just can't believe that. It's inhumane. I'm holding out hope in humanity. I've lost most faith in humanity, but I'm holding out hope that this is not what they wanted. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Like I said, I've given you my view on immigration and deportation and all those things, but I also have told you, like, we're not going about it the right way at all. But let me know in the comments. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you're liking. Let me know what you're not liking. Things that I should change.
Hype me up. Hype me up.
And yeah, until next time, I'll holla at you.